It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was totally awesome. We have our own theme, and we have our own podcast.
Can you believe it?
So, I know. We're going to talk a little bit more about that theme in a little bit. But this is our debut episode, and we are so excited that you guys are listening. A huge thank you to everyone who supported us on our fundraising sites. What Ethan and I want to do with this podcast is provide an entertaining supplement to your weekly Weird Al intake. So we're going to have great interviews with celebrity Weird Al fans lined up. We're going to be talking to people who worked with Al behind the scenes, and we have some of Al's most prominent fans we're going to be talking to.
Including ourselves.
Including ourselves. We're going to interview ourselves. We're going to have thought-provoking discussions, which we're really looking forward to, and we're going to have, most importantly, we're going to have lots of fun. So really, I mean, nothing is off the table what we're going to be talking about. If we think it's entertaining, we're gonna talk about it.
As long as it has to do with Weird Al, of course.
Yes, of course. So I've known Ethan probably a little bit over 10 years at this point, and this idea for doing a podcast is a fairly recent one. But Ethan and I, we talk about Weird Al all the time. So doing a podcast was something that was like natural to us, and the more we looked in,
I just want to say we talk about it all the time because I mean I know your wife is a huge fan, but I don't have many people like in my personal life who I can talk to about Al at the same level as I can talk to you about Al.
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, we're talking about him anyway. Let's just get some mics, and I bet other people will find it interesting.
I mean, yeah, our conversations have been in depth, and we're gonna talk about this on another episode. But we were up in the morning, 2:00 in the morning, texting each other for an hour about Weird Al one time, right? So
one time.
At least one time. So this is the kind of this was so natural, just that we have to share what our conversations and our discussions with everybody, and we just have so much fun doing it, and we're gonna have a lot of fun continuing doing it. Let me tell you a little about Ethan. All right.
Yes, tell him about me.
So besides being, of course, a big Weird Al fan, Ethan's also has done stand-up comedy.
That's right.
He's produced multiple monthly comedy shows in upstate New York.
That's true.
He was previously hosted for about 8 years, Alternative to Sleeping with Ethan Ullman, which is a stand-up comedy and interview show based out of Albany, New York. And he's appeared on Howard Stern's show.
I did. How did you know all this about me, Dave?
I tell you, I know a lot about you, Ethan.
Well, I'm glad you just stuck with the good stuff. Well, so Dave, we mentioned that we've known each other. I think it's really more like 12 or 13 years. We met at a Turning Stone show. I think I was 16 years old, and I recognized you because, as any good Weird Al fan growing up in the 90s did, is you checked Weird Al's website about 500 times a day, and right on the links page was a link to your website, which you can go to. We've got it all on UHF, weirdal.info, and it has all your concert reviews, it has all the pictures of your tattoos, and it's got, your collection listed, and I spent so many hours on that site as a kid. So when I finally saw you in person, I was like, oh, you're Dave, I need to look at your limbs. And I checked out all your tattoos, and I took pictures of them with my track phone or whatever I had at that point, and then I I don't think podcasts were a thing back then. So pretty great that we were able to transition that into this podcast. I mentioned your collection. I don't know if anyone realizes this, but Dave has the largest private collection of Weird Al memorabilia in the world. He has more stuff in his collection than Al does. But Al's collection is better because Al has himself in the collection, which that's the one thing.
That's one thing I have not been able to figure out how to get yet.
You
But
have not-
once I do, I will have Al in my collection.
So we were talking about this recently, but I don't even know how many shows I've been to. It's nowhere near the 177 that Dave has been to date. And at the end of this upcoming Strings Attached tour, he's going to be over 200 shows gone
Yeah,
to.
I don't know if it'll be over 200, but I'll be pretty close to 200 shows.
Oh man, it's
But yeah,
that's crazy. And
we're gonna have to find out how many concerts you've been to.
I
because
know.
We're thinking Ethan is right around that 20 magic 27 number.
Yes.
So we're gonna sit down and we're gonna hash this out, and and if it is, we're gonna make such a big deal about Ethan hitting number 27.
If I'd not already hit 27, I'm definitely hitting it at this next tour. So yeah, we got to figure that out. We got
and we're gonna be talking and this tour, we're gonna be doing a lot of shows together on this tour.
That's true. Yeah, since we do
So-
live fairly close to each other, we're going to be making it to a bunch. Dave, I need to also mention, you're probably best known for, at least as of late, as you're the guy who started the Weird Al Star Fund and got Al a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And not only did you start this fund over a decade ago, you petitioned the Hollywood Hall of Fame, Walk of Fame people to get Al the star every year. And you raised the $40,000 to actually pay for the star. And then in the acceptance speech, Al pointed you out and made you dance.
I danced on Hollywood Boulevard in front of 1,500 strangers and who knows how many people live on the internet.
So many
I made a
people.
fool of myself.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. It was great.
I was
really
standing
was.
right behind you, so I got a really good view of your dance. So
We're going to talk a lot about that Star Fund
Oh my
ceremony
God, so
too,
much.
because especially and I don't know how many people know this. The contributors do, but we had an after party in the Viper Room. How cool is that?
that is like if someone were to ask me, can you name one famous club in Hollywood area? That's the only one I would have been able to think of, is the Viper Room, and that is where we got to have the after party. So cool. We'll talk about that, and we're gonna get way deeper into Dave and our histories of being Weird Al fans and our collecting and our amassing of Weird Al related knowledge over the episodes. So this is just merely scratching the surface of our fandoms.
All right, I think what we need to do is there is a third person involved in our podcast,
Yes.
and I think we do. To be fair, we do. Even though he does sometimes come late, and I mean his excuse that one time where he was helping the elderly woman carry her groceries up 3 flights of stairs, and so he's 5 minutes late to our.
She's
to our
got 2
rehearsal.
hands. We have 2 mics. We need help.
We'll let it slip, but
Yeah.
let me tell you a little about. All right, so this guy,
He
we
should
have
have let
an
her
intern.
slip.
We have an intern working for us, and he's we're gonna tell you a little bit about him, but he's his name is Frank, right? He's got a degree in communications, and he's done a lot of interning for like Fortune 400 companies and things like that. He's really into fitness and that kind of stuff, but we hired him because, let's face it, we're lazy. We don't want to do anything.
I'm not going
except
to edit
talk.
this together. I just want to sit down. I don't want to push the button record. I just want to sit down and talk. And yeah, we had to get Frank.
So Frank is going to basically take care of all the stuff that you and I don't want to do, and also, Frank, if you email us, you're really emailing Frank, and he's going to forward the message to either one of us,
Yeah.
or respond to it.
As us,
Basically,
He
as
runs
us,
and
yeah.
he runs our social media pages, our website.
Yeah, he's a decent guy.
Yeah.
He's worth having around just for what he does.
He's all right. I mean, contractually we have to mention him, but really I'd rather not talk about him.
But let's talk about, since you brought it up,
Yeah,
let's talk about
the
social media.
Yeah.
sites.
So, in case you have forgotten already, our show is called Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. So you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. Our username is 2000 inch.
Right. Just remember, at 2000, and that's the number 2000 and the word inch.
Yeah, it's just 2000 INCH. And Twitter / that on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and our website is 2000inch.com. It doesn't get any easier.
If you can't remember what our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram handle is, just go to our website, 2000inch.com, or email Frank. And his email address, frank@2000inch.com.
And he'll tell you where to go.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
he'll be able to forward you to wherever you want.
Hopefully people are maybe they're listening to this first podcast and they're thinking, what do I do after this? Well, you need to subscribe and listen to every other podcast we put out. So that's your first step.
I mean, if you do like this podcast, then please subscribe, because it really does mean a lot to us.
And we have so much more stupid stuff to talk about, and we want you to hear all of it.
One thing we want to do is we want to make this podcast as interactive as possible with all of our listeners. So we're going to be periodically reaching out to you guys, to talk about things, and we're going to be asking you to send us, your feedback and send us ideas. We're going to give you some topics to discuss, and we're going to bring that kind of stuff up.
We might have some contests.
We'll have some contests,
of course.
We're gonna make this. We want to make this fun for everybody, and including us, and make it as difficult for Frank as possible.
Right.
So, but also we want to know. We want to hear from you guys too. I mean, if you are listening and you are someone who has worked with Al, or you're a celebrity who's a Weird Al fan or anything, we want to hear from you. We want to put you on this podcast.
Maybe if you have a lame claim to fame related to Weird Al, we want to hear from you.
if you have a lame claim to fame, then yes, please get in touch with us through any of our social media, or email Frank.
Was your grandma's neighbor's cousin's dog walked by a guy who is the neighbor's grandma's cousin of Weird Al? Well, we need to know that.
Yeah, and if you're a guest on the show, or you recommend a guest and we book that guest through some of your tips, then we will send you some Weird Al swag.
We'll send you a special present. And speaking of special stuff, if you do have like a rare or weird or unique Weird Al memorabilia piece, Dave and I are ultra collectors. So send us a picture, send us some information, and maybe we'll even appraise it and talk about it live on the podcast. I think that would be really fun. Because I know, Dave, you and I, we can look at something and pretty much ballpark tell what it's worth, as long as it's Weird Al related.
Yeah, true.
And if we've never seen
don't be sending us pictures of your antique vases and
no. This is not Antique Roadshow. This is Al Teak Memro Show.
Yeah. So, and we want to see what you guys have too, because we're going to be talking a lot about collections, and we're going to start. We're going to go cover everything from a beginner collector through the hardcore, collectors like Ethan and myself.
And if you do send us a picture of something that neither of us has, and you're willing to part with it, Dave and I will get in a fist fight live on the air for you.
Yes, but Dave will win that one, because he will give you more money for it than Ethan.
Well, we'll see.
Let's go back and talk a little bit about our theme. I think we should play our theme.
Let's play the theme one more time.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Wow! I cannot believe this. Wow! Okay, that is awesome, and it gets better.
First of all, the best podcast theme song in the world.
It gets better. The theme music may sound familiar to you, and the voice may sound familiar to you, because this podcast was written by somebody who is Grammy-nominated.
Hey guys,
Grammy
it's
winner.
Jim. Are you guys there?
We're here. Oh my God, Jim Kimo West.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah. How did you get this number?
Oh, well, I was just randomly dialing numbers, and
Wow.
for some reason it just happened.
Well, we are thrilled to announce that Jim Kimo West recorded our theme song.
That's right.
I can't believe it. It doesn't seem real to me.
No, it's so amazing, and thank you so much for that, Jim. That is just it's truly one of my favorite moments in my life.
Well, it's something I enjoy doing. You know, I've worked as a composer for years, and you have all kinds of different projects with different needs from different producers, and so I kind of like. I'm sort of a chameleon in that way, so it was fun. It was easy. Of course, it's a little bit of rock and roll, so that's totally in my style.
What amazed me is when we were talking to you about it, we had like an idea in our head of what it would sound like, and literally you sent us the first draft, and it was 100% perfect, like exactly from our head. I don't know how you did that.
Well, that's from years of working, like I say, as a composer. You get these directions from producers, and you just have to think about it for a while before you start making any noise. And just thinking about where they're coming from and what they like, and try and sort of do the detective work behind the scenes before you start making any noise. So once I figured that out, it was you guys sent me some examples, and I was like, okay, that shouldn't be too hard.
Oh yeah, you nailed it. It's awesome. It is awesome.
I've probably listened to it 500 times by now. It's amazing.
Well, I'm not really a singer, but I thought, well, it's got lyrics. I guess I better sing it.
They're so good. Now, Jim, it's so exciting because you recently were nominated for a Grammy for your new album, Moku Malohia, Peaceful Island. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Moku Maluhia, yeah.
Wow, okay. That's amazing. I mean, is this the first time you've been nominated for a Grammy?
Yeah, it is. I was completely shocked. I just put it out there in the mix, and didn't really do any advertising or anything like that. But I was completely shocked. The day the nominations came out, I don't even think I even knew what day they were coming out. But I was having coffee one morning and checking some. I think I was reading the newspaper or something like that, or reading something. Anyway, I was having coffee, and then I noticed my phone across the room was, the ringer was off, but it was just vibrating, and it was just going off like crazy for a while. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? So maybe somebody's trying to reach me, And so I picked my phone up, and it was just like completely blown up with messages of congratulations.
Wow.
I was pretty shocked.
That's incredible. Oh, wow.
Shocked in a good way. It was all good. It was like, uh-oh, what do I do now?
Yeah, we were really excited for you when we saw that.
Yeah, it's nice. It's I mean, I don't know that a Grammy really means a lot. I guess maybe it means that you're popular. I don't know if it necessarily means that, anything, artistically, but it's nice to be recognized. And the nomination process, the cool thing about that is that there's so many entries, to be one of the 5 that's chosen that's the real honor there. And then, once you get down to the 5, it's kind of a popularity contest, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, just to be nominated, it's got to be an amazing honor.
Yeah, it was.
You're right. Yeah, your life's work here. All of a sudden now you're getting the recognition at such an incredibly high level for it.
Yeah, it really was really, really cool. And there are a lot of cool parties and things to go to, and gift bags and red carpets and all that stuff. It was fun. It was a really good time.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to try to say this too. Moku Maluhia.
Right.
Yes, Moku Maluhia. Now that is not, and we know this is not your first Hawaiian slack key album.
No, it's probably I think my 8th or 9th record. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have at least 8 or 9 of them out there. What got you into slack key guitar?
Well, years ago, not long after I met Al, I just happened to go to Hawaii. I was invited to go to Maui by a friend actually who was on the tour with us as a tech.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was after the Dare to Be Stupid tour in 1985, way back. Anyway, I was invited to go to a little town called Hana, Maui, and the folks we were staying with had a lot of Hawaiian music records, vinyl, and cassettes back then. And, they had a lot of these slack key records, and I just, really liked that sound. I just sort of fell in love with that sound, and, I'd make tapes and listen to them in the car, and got pretty familiar with that genre, but I didn't really, I really didn't sit down and decide I was going to learn how to play it. I just liked to listen to it. But, after listening to it for, a number of years, 5 or 6 years, it just started coming out in my writing. I started writing tunes and writing all these slack key tunes. I'd record them mostly just so I wouldn't forget them. And then somebody at one point said, hey, you got 12 songs. You should just put out a CD. And I hadn't really even considered that at all. I mean, but I thought, well, shoot, why not? I've got 12 songs, and I had somebody do the artwork, and that became my first CD, which was called Coconut Hat. Way back, and probably came out in like 1999 or something.
Wow. So it really was a long time since you started getting into the music before you really put anything out.
Yeah. Like I said, I used to just sort of enjoy it, but I think I just absorbed the whole feeling of slack key just by osmosis over the years. I'd listened to it so much, and I really, I just felt a real connection to that sound, and of course, I kind of add my own twists to it because I have a whole other, sum of musical influences. So when you can write something and compose, I wasn't specifically trying to write super traditional Hawaiian music. I add my own influences in there. So, my stuff comes out kind of different, but that's what sets it apart, I think.
Yeah, I would think that fans of slack key music would appreciate an outside influence on it because you're a quote unquote outsider to Hawaii. You grew up in Canada. So is there a branch of Canadian slack key that you're aware of?
I don't think so. I have never met another Canadian slack key player in my life, but there's probably a few up there now. But the actual pool of slack key players who do it professionally, put records out regularly and tour, it's, even, including Hawaii, is just a very small number of people, It's probably like 20, or
Wow.
25 slack key players that work professionally, in any capacity, or, certainly probably no more than 30. But so it's a small family, But,
that's great. Now,
but it's nice to be part of it and accepted by, the Hawaiians, early on, I was completely accepted when I started playing at the festivals, and it was a really nice feeling, to feel included.
and I'm sure slack key is not the simplest thing to learn. I know there's like different tunings and there's a different style of play. How long did it take before you felt really comfortable playing it?
Well, I've been playing guitar since I was 12, so I wasn't, I was pretty familiar with finger picking, first of all, which is the way you play slack key. It's a finger picking, finger style sound. And I'd also played around with open tunings before as well, so I wasn't any stranger to it. But it was really more about getting the feel and the, communicating that sort of lilting flow, And it has a lot to do with the, you're playing one guitar, but you're playing this bass line with this kind of alternating bass, and you're playing the melody and the chords all at the same time. So to get that to all work together as one machine took a little practice, but after a while it starts feeling very natural, and it's pretty simple after that.
Well, so you besides the slack key, you're kind of a jack of all trades. You kind of, especially with Al, but even kind of doing some producing of other albums, work on TV shows. There's one that I want to particularly ask you about because it's pretty timely. As we're recording this, unfortunately, the lead singer of Prodigy, Keith Flint, has passed away.
I just saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and you had, and there's like, it's not really a parody, it's more like kind of like an adaptation of his Firestarter called Lousy Haircut, and
right.
I understand you were kind of involved with that for the Weird Al show.
Yeah, I produced the track for that. I did that in my studio, and then sent it to Al, and then he overdubbed the vocal. But I did the whole track for that, and it was fun. It was basically do something. It wasn't a direct parody, like you said. It was a more of a sort of a sound alike, so musical pastiche. So I did something, in the same vibe of it. It was a fun track to do, and of course, like I said, Al added his vocal, and that was it. Of course, we were working on the Weird Al show, so I was doing some other music for that show as well, and we were working at a very fast pace, so everything had to be done pretty quickly,
Yeah, I was going to ask you kind of what other pieces did you work on in the Weird Al show that you can remember?
Let's see. My friend Will Anderson was doing all the background writing because we were on tour and I didn't really have. I couldn't be around, to take care of that, on a day-to-day basis because we were on tour. But before the tour started, I did a lot of interstitial music, just some number of different cues for different things, including the, the fire starter knockoff, the Bad Haircut, and then I did, a few other things. There was like a sort of a trailer, it's called 60% Chance of Rain, and there was, a bunch of different funny bits. So I did some of those cues for the show, at least, sort of simulate, kind of commercials and things like that,
Right.
So I did a bunch of that stuff before the tour started. So those were all kind of done, and then once we hit the road, the other guy took over to do the the regular background score.
That's fantastic. Now, when it came to UHF, did you, aside from the Al songs, did you do any of that, any of those background music or anything like that?
No, I believe I played guitar on some stuff. There was a composer who did that score, but of course there is the video in there, the Money for Nothing, Beverly Hillbillies video in there. Of course, which I originally played on, but then they had a chance to get Mark Knopfler to play on it, so they of course went with that. But I remember learning it, and originally I think my part went down first on tape, and then they said, "Hey, Mark Knopfler said he'll play on it," so Mark Knopfler ended up playing the part on that. So I'm not really in the UHF soundtrack very much. I mean, there's some guitar parts I think I played for the composer here and there, but not much.
Exists a version of that song where there's no Mark and it's just Jim? I would love to hear that.
Jeez, I certainly don't have it. If I don't have that, but I wish I did actually now.
Yeah. Well, let me know if you get it. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, actually, it was. I think I remember when I recorded my part, I got it really exactly like the original, as much as I could. And then when Mark did it, he had changed it up a little bit. It was still fantastic, but I noticed that, he had kind of strayed away from the actual original part a little bit here and there. There was some, he changed it up a little bit. So his part wasn't exactly like the original record. But
so you did a better job of playing his guitar than he did, is
well,
really what we're saying.
Mark is a terrific guitar player, and he knows what he's doing, that's for sure.
Well, he's not my favorite guitar player, so screw Mark.
And he did not write our theme song either.
That's right.
Now you also, I think you also worked on the film Al's Brain too, right?
Yeah, I did the music for that. Of course, that was a very short film. It was very, very short 3D film, but it was fun. It was all mostly kind of an orchestral type of music, and it was done pretty quickly, but that was fun. It was fun to go see it in the 3D. It premiered at the Orange County Fair. They had a kind of a room built just for that, and it was cool to be in there while it was playing. It was quite a thrill to hear it going on.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. Yeah, definitely. And since you brought it up, the orchestral music. Coming up this next tour, you guys are out performing for Weird Al with an entire orchestra.
The Strings Attached tour.
Yeah.
That's going to be crazy. And I just realized that one of the tunes we'll be doing is Weasel Stomping Day, which is something that on the original record, I did all those. I did the arrangement for that, the orchestral arrangement. Of course, I played it all on synths, and samplers and stuff. But it'll be cool because it'll be my parts, but the orchestra will be playing it this time.
Oh, that's
I hate to
cool.
get to hear it for real.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to ask you about the strings attached to her. I mean, aside from Weasel Stomping Deer, is there anything that you're really looking forward to hearing with the full orchestra that maybe you didn't do at the Bowl? Just new things that you're excited to hear?
Yeah, I haven't really perused the set list very much. I know there's a lot of stuff that we did at the Bowl. I'm sure that will be in there. I'm trying to think of what else is new. I can't really pin it down right now. I'd have to sort of look at it and see,
Now, when it comes to your part, are you playing the songs differently to work with the orchestra, or is it essentially the same? You're playing the same thing with or without?
No, generally we're not changing our parts. We're
Okay.
basically doing what we do, and then the orchestra is arranged so that it can just kind of adds to what we're doing, But then again, on something like Weasel Stomping Day, maybe that might be a little different because there was no guitar on that. So.
Okay, cool.
Who knows? I may be wearing a weasel suit for that one.
I hope so.
Looking forward to it.
So you will be back, or do you know, are there going to be costumes again? I know Bermuda has said he's not a huge fan of wearing costumes sometimes.
I believe there will be some. I
Cool.
don't really know the whole story, but I think there will be some. I'm sure I'll be wearing the Jedi suit.
Yeah.
Probably.
You've got to.
I think that's gotta be in there. But I'm not really sure what else. Hopefully not the weasel costume.
You better write a guitar part for that song.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I got to talk about the Vanity Tour. One of the most amazing shows I've ever seen were those Vanity shows. What was your experience like?
It was it was very, very different. Of course, as it would be from an audience perspective. No costumes, no backing video or backing tracks or anything. It was just the band playing live, and it was very refreshing, in a lot of ways to do that. And and then we had the chance to kind of banter, and we didn't, it wasn't like a completely scripted show like normally things
Right.
are. But so it was very refreshing, although it was a lot of work because we started off learning about 60 songs, because the set was going to be different every night. So we learned about 60 songs. And then as part of the encore, as you know, we would do a straight cover, and there were 77 shows, so we learned 77 more songs. So I was adding it up, and it was like, I think we learned 137 songs.
Oh, my God.
But,
And
it was good for your brain, I guess,
Were there songs that you guys learned that didn't end up getting played? Any covers or originals?
There was one, I can't remember now. There was something. I think we learned Trigger Happy, but I think, due to the situation with, Parkland had just happened, and it was like,
That makes sense.
It might be a little bit too edgy, Although I've always loved that song. And
It is great.
it's a great,
Yeah.
great statement, But that might have been the only one we didn't do.
Now, with the cover songs that you did, were there any of them that you particularly were looking forward to or really enjoyed doing?
Well, there were a lot of tunes that I had probably learned when I was, 17 or something. So, of course, back then I didn't have as good an ear as I have now. So it was kind of fun to go back and really learn them right, and learn the parts properly, anything from, Jimi Hendrix to James Taylor. I think I'd played a lot of those tunes before, but I'd never really learned them like I would if we were doing a parody recording of them or something, So I tried to learn the parts properly, and that was kind of fun to go back over some of these old tunes that you knew, but you really hadn't learned them 100% perfectly. And then there were a lot of tunes I'd never even heard before. So
Oh, sure. Yeah, it
there
was
were
such
quite
a
a few that it
mix.
was like, what? I've never heard this one, So it was fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I can imagine it being fun on stage, and it was just that much fun in the audience. It was so cool. I think I saw
Yeah.
10 shows, and everyone was different, and everyone was just such a fun experience.
Yeah, it was. It was nice, nice to have that looseness and, and that's to change a different set every night. It was pretty cool. Pretty. Very. It keeps things really interesting as opposed to a show where it's completely the same every night.
I wanted to talk about a really cool piece I have in my collection. It is the effects processing unit you used when recording "Smells Like Nirvana." Can you tell us
Oh, yeah.
anything about that? It's really one of my favorite things.
Well, when it came time to record that song, the original "Smells Like Teen Spirit" sound that Kurt had was really a real edgy sound, and I thought I didn't really have any amps that really got that sound. I thought I need some kind of processor, but I had recently got that box, and it was one of those first all-in-one kind of guitar processor boxes that came out, and it had some real gnarly, metal, almost metal type sounds, and so I just pulled one of those up and started kind of tweaking it until it sounded kind of like the record. And I don't know if it really sounded much like the record, but it was it was a sound that I didn't have before, so I used it, and I think I used it. I think I used the preamp. It was mostly the preamp sound, but I think I ran the output of it into a Marshall amp set kind of clean, so it was just give it a little bit more of a tubey sound. But I think that's what I did. But it was essentially most of the tone was coming from the processor.
And
Cool.
you mentioned you also used that in the film Lady Dragon, and that is the only
Yes, I
piece of
did.
my Lady Dragon memorabilia collection.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. That's right. I did that score in Hong Kong, and I packed
Really?
up I basically packed up all these big road cases full of gear and my computer and my, guitar and keyboard and all this stuff, and shipped it to Hong Kong. And I lived in Hong Kong for 6 weeks while I did that score.
That's
And
incredible.
and that's what I used for all the guitar, was that Zoom box, and all the guitar on that film is done to that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. If we're gonna if Ethan's gonna brag about the stuff in his collection, then I'm gonna brag about something in my collection too. Now I don't know if you remember, but I actually have in my collection the banjo that you used probably until about 1994, 1996
Yep. Yeah.
on tour and most of the albums, and it's definitely one of my most prized possessions.
Yeah, that was the banjo that I used on the recordings. Early recordings. I think there were a couple times when they had somebody else play the banjo, but anytime I played the banjo that on the recordings, that was it. And then we used it, of course, on the tours and on TV shows, and I believe it was actually used when we played a polka medley once on the original Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Wow,
Oh,
that
yeah.
is cool.
And that was and I used that banjo. And
Wow, that's great.
it was I didn't have a banjo, and they wanted me to play banjo on the polka, and then they said, well, we'll get you a banjo. And so they got that banjo, and it was obviously not a very expensive banjo, but it worked, and more or less it was kind of more of a prop than it was an instrument, but it served the purpose, for a while. But then eventually it was like, I guess I got to get a real instrument, and so once I got something better, then that one wasn't used anymore.
It's incredible. I gotta ask. So for the Jim West collectors out there, like Dave and I, is there like an obscure CD or a soundtrack or something that you're maybe played on that you're not listed in the credits or something out there for us collectors to go hunting for?
Jeez, God, there's a lot of stuff I've played on that I'm not in the credits. That's for
Yeah.
sure. A lot of stuff, especially cartoon shows and things like that. There is an album that I did. I was thinking of re-releasing it. It was a commission that I did for this organization in Hawaii, and it was called Nurturing the Garden, and so that one was never out on the market per se, like for sale, you know, and I think the only place they sold it was in their gift shop in Hawaii. But
Oh, wow.
but it's I think there were 5 or 6 pieces on there, and then they added in some stuff from Coconut Hat too to fill it out. But it was it's got some interesting music, and I've been thinking about re-releasing it. You know, just as a sort of a bargain basement CD, you know, just because there are some interesting pieces on there, and one is kind of sort of slack key and orchestral, and it's nice. It's a little different, you know, and so I may re-release that at some point, you know.
Well, now I know what I need to go searching eBay for. See if I can.
Yeah, no.
See if I can beat Dave to if there's any on eBay.
Yeah. Anyway, but there are a lot of other things I've played on, you know, over the years, TV shows and things where I was, you know, uncredited. I was more or less, you know, writing for another composer. So a lot of things out there, probably, you know, on DVD, and geez, I can't even think. There's probably got to be tons of stuff out there, but.
I saw in your bio, and I couldn't find anything online about it. You worked something with Marvel. I'd love to hear about that.
Well, that was a long time ago. I did music, and again, this was for another composer, but it was music for Iron Man, the original Iron Man Saturday morning show,
Cool.
animated show. So I did that series, and you know, I don't know if that's, you know, it might be out there on YouTube, but it was the old, you know, before they had the Iron Man, the movie and all that. It's
Yeah.
long before that. It was Iron Man, the Saturday morning cartoon show. And, you know, I did all the music for that. And that was fun. That was a good, fun project. And more recently, you know, not real recently, but, you know, starting a number of years ago, I did quite some music for My Little Pony, which was fun. You know, it was sort of the reboot of My Little
Yeah.
Pony.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember I did this one piece. I just knocked it out in a few hours. It was like a heroic kind of rock montage, you know, and it was all just lead guitar, you know, just wailing lead guitar, kind of melodic rock, you know, sort of heroic stuff, you know. It was just another cue. And then I, you know, months, you know, maybe like a year later, I discovered that, you know, that people were using it on YouTube, and there were like guys had sit there and learned every note of the solo and playing along with it. And I was like, what?
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's out there. I think it's Fluttershy training sequence.
Okay.
It's like one of those, you know, just like a martial arts movie where, you know, somebody gets, you know, wronged, and they're gonna go into this training session. They're gonna get all beefed up, and they're gonna go kick some butt. You know, it was that kind of music, you know, heroic.
I'm sure
rock,
influenced
you
by Lady Dragon.
know. Yeah, right. Because that Lady Dragon had the same sequence, similar sequence in there. But anyway, but yeah, there's lots of stuff out there. I've played on so many things over the years, and.
Yeah, and you've kind of done some tribute albums too, for like the Eagles and Sublime.
Right.
As well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were for a company called CMH Records, and they have a series they call Pickin' On. They were real famous for. They were basically like bluegrass versions of anything from Metallica
Wow.
to, you know, the Grateful Dead to Beatles to whatever, anything you can think of. And they're quite well produced records. They had an idea to do some Hawaiian tribute records, and so they commissioned me to do, I think the first one was the Sublime one, which was interesting, and it's pretty fun actually. And then the next year they asked me to do one for the Eagles, and you know, they were just it was basically like a job. You know, I was hired to produce it and record it, and I think on the Sublime one I had a few extra musicians that came in for a few parts, so it was mostly me. And then on the Eagles one, I just played everything on that one. That was all me. But it was just a job, but it was fun. And that the tracks end up, when I listen back to them, it's like, yeah, this sounds pretty, pretty tight and, well produced, well recorded. It sounds, pretty good. And I've got a lot of, I actually buy those records from CMH, like at a wholesale price, and I often sell them at my gigs, so I always sell them. They always
great.
sell.
We talked about your slack key. We've talked about, mimicking so many different styles of music. Is there a type of music that you haven't touched that you wish you would try, or anything like that?
Gee, as a composer, I mean, I've gone all the way from speed metal to, Central American marimba music to, anything you can think of. I mean, I've kind of done. I haven't done a lot of jazz and a lot of classical, but oftentimes there's not a lot of call for that in the composing world. At least for the stuff I've been offered. But I don't know. I've got a number of ideas for my own projects that are sort of sounds that that I don't think have been put out there yet, but they're kind of hybrid things. But I've got a few different projects sort of that are in the thinking stage right now.
Speaking for Dave and myself, we're very much looking forward to everything that is upcoming, the Strings Attached tour, any new music, hopefully some Nurturing the Garden to come out in the future.
Yeah.
Such a great, thank you so much for joining us for the podcast, for writing an amazing, incredible, the best ever theme song.
Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. I was surprised that liked it first right off the bat, but I liked it. I played it a few times and I thought, this is good. I like this, and so I was really stoked that you guys dug it, and thanks for giving me the input, the right input.
Of course. Yeah. What are the odds that Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast theme song will be on the Strings Attached tour?
Well, you never know.
Never know.
No, that was fun. We had I had a good time doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
all right, you guys. Well, have a good evening. Thanks to everybody listening, and aloha.
Well, thank you to Jim Kimo West for being our first guest and for that amazing theme song.
Yes.
Wow. So you can visit Jim at jimkimowest.com. Twitter, he is at Westernmost. And on Instagram, he is Jim Kimo West.
And Facebook.com/slackhappy if you want to follow him there. And what's really cool, I know, Dave, you've got one of these. I've got one of these. Jim's got this really cool deal right now. You can get all 9 of his CDs in MP3, full fidelity CD files, plus the album artwork. And it all comes on an autographed bamboo USB drive. It's the portable music collection, and it's only $40 with free shipping, and it is really freaking cool. So you can get those on jimkimowest.com.
Yeah, that's an amazing deal just to get Jim's entire catalog just on one spot. It's I can see myself using that all the time.
Yeah, and it's just like if you have a Weird Al collection, you need this.
It's a must. It's a must for every Weird Al collection.
For
absolutely.
any Weird Al collection, yeah.
Big thank you to all of our listeners, and a big thank you to everyone who helped contribute on our Indiegogo. We really appreciate it. Thank you. If you really enjoy this podcast, please subscribe. We love when we have new subscribers.
Love it. And we have a very exciting episode coming up next week for episode 2-inch. Dave, you want to tell us?
Oh, this is exciting because we actually have not one but 2 guests, and both of them have won Grammys.
That's right.
Right, and they won Grammys for their work on Squeezebox with Weird Al, and it is the 2 women who basically designed Squeezebox, Annie Stoll and Megan Foley, and they give an amazing interview, and they tell us all about their experience at the Grammy Awards, and you definitely want to tune in and listen to this.
And get ready for the episode by checking out their acceptance speech on YouTube. It's Al, it's them, it's awesome. So check that out, get ready, and we'll see you next week.
And that was Dave and Ethan's 2008 Weird Al Podcast, episode 1.
Hopefully not the weasel costume.